going to Royal LePage community to meet up with the team at Tyler McClay's real estate team. Probably the #1 real estate team in Ontario, or Toronto for sure. So we're going to give them a little presentation about garden suites, laneway suites, and then discuss some collaboration opportunities. Let's go. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be with the real estate daddy of Ontario and the rest of the team. So my name is Ali Salmani from Atena Building Group. I'm here with our social media manager and my guy also, Yashar. He's late. He got a flat tire, but he's going to be here. He'll give a little speech at the end. But let's talk about garden suites. I think this is a hot topic. It's been around for some time, but we're still finding that a lot of real estate professionals and then also their clients aren't really clear as to what exactly is a garden suite, how do I build it, can I even build it? So we'll keep it light. I'll just run through it, talk about some of the key technical aspects of it, and then ask me any questions that you have. I'm here, and I just want to make sure that if there's any questions, if there's any lack of clarity, that we go through it. And then I can help you so that you can help your clients better understand what are the values around this. Just a little bit about us. Family business. My father started the company back in 2003, and I'm just a worker. I clean the office and sweep the floor and things like that, basically. So just right off the bat, what exactly is a garden suite or a laneway suite? These terms, they get tossed around, basically, or ADUs, accessory dwelling units. They're all pretty much the same thing. Essentially what it is you're building another fully sustainable detached property on the same land. Now, within the city of Toronto, which is where we're going to do mostly the focus of this presentation, there are certain setbacks, requirements, bylaws, zonings that we'll run through so that you get a better sense on if it's possible to build and how much you can build in your property. So again, it's a private, fully detached, and for many of you who ask, you cannot do a severance right now. This is not something that they allow. A lot of investors, they want to basically say, hey, I have a large piece of land, maybe I can just divide it in two and then sell it. That's still a big no-no with the city of Toronto and all the other municipalities because essentially they don't want to create a sort of confusion in the market. They want people to be invested in their properties for some time. Just right off the bat, what are some of the benefits we're seeing of garden suites and laneway suites? #1, rental income. That's what most people are doing it for. Most of our clients are investors, whether it's they're buying the entire property to make it into an investment property or they're living in it and then they're building this so that they can generate rental income. Other than that, family members, so let's say you have an elderly parent or you have children that are going off to college, but they're staying local, this will be probably one of the best ways for you to build something so that they have their own privacy, but they're close by. And then also, it adds value to the property down the line, right? It's not I don't think, and I like to be very frank and honest, I don't think this is something that's going to pay off right away in the first year, in the first 3 years at least. But any way you look at it, after a few years, you are essentially building two properties on two structures on the same property. So any way you look at it, you've just added more density, you've added more rental income. Anyone who looks at it will see the value in there. Just like any new construction, you need to get a permit, right? And the first thing that we need is an updated survey with a grading plan. So a survey from 20, 30 years ago, it's good to get the thing started because it'll tell us exactly where things are, where the property lines are. But in order for us to submit it to the city, you need to get an updated survey, no less than at least 6 months to a year. From there, we need to do the permit package, which is the architectural drawing, the structural engineering, and the mechanical engineering. So we take care of that entire process, but this is something that the city will require for them to basically issue the permit. One thing that we're seeing right now, even though the city is very pro, the city actually really wants people to build this, they have a backlog. Things are taking too long, right? Initially, you have to go through the zoning review, and the zoning review is something that really is the big clog in the system. By the time they look at it, by the time it gets approved, we're finding that you should at least budget about a month, and in some cases, we've seen 2 to 3 months for them to review it. Why that's important is because the building department can't officially issue a building permit until the zoning has been satisfied. So it's even if you have the building permit running basically the plan and they're saying okay, but they still need the zoning to sign off and give you the full permit. So it's very important to start the planning early. I always say give it 3 to 6 months minimum, right? And even in this climate. So some clients, they say, hey, why can't we break ground right after we sign the contract? You're not allowed. You can't. There's a whole process to it. So tell your clients minimum 3 to 6 months for you to finalize the drawings, send it to the city, and for the city to issue the permit. There is a process of also getting some minor variances, which means you're pretty much asking for a little bit more than what the zoning bylaw or the bylaw permits you to build. We are seeing that the Committee of Adjustment, which is the body that looks at the minor variances, have been very pro. We've seen some really weird shapes and things that I would have never thought would pass. They're passing it, right? So this is, again, don't be worried if something might not make it. If you have the time and the budget to go through the Committee of Adjustment, we're seeing good results in there. So let's talk a little bit about some of the key things, some of the setbacks, and I'll try to make it very simplified. Do you see it? Oh.
Sorry, it's being a little bit.
So let's start actually just very briefly, the high level things. In the city of Toronto, there's a maximum size garden suite that you can build. So even if you have a huge backyard, like let's say in North York where you have 50 by 150s, the maximum that you can build on each level is 645 square feet, and that makes it the maximum to be 1290 on 2 floors. Now, you are able to add a basement in there, just so that you can get more square footage, but as we all know, doing a basement anywhere in the city is pretty much just like building a custom house, especially when it's in the back of the structure and logistics might be an issue in terms of getting machinery in there. We always find that basements typically are a little bit more of a premium, and it doesn't always make sense. It only makes sense if you're really holding the property for maybe 10, 15 years, or you have the money and you say, you know what, I want the entire full build of this garden suite. So maximum is 1290, or each floor is 645 on a concrete slab.
I don't think so.
Is the average?
It's on the laptop,
doing
yeah.
One floor. I'm assuming they're just doing one floor, 645 square feet. No.
From my experience, everyone wants at least a 2-story. The 1-story where it makes sense is, again, budget. But then also, I'll mention here, there's a setback requirement. There's a minimum setback requirement from the back of the main house to where the garden suite is able to start from. In order for you to build a 1-story, you need to have 4 meters, which is just about 13 feet. They just recently changed it from 5, which was 16 feet. So you need that clear distance, basically, and then you can build your garden suite. In order for you to build a 2-story, you need to have 7.5 meters, which is about 24 feet, right? So if your land doesn't have that that basically deep lot, then you're stuck with building a 1-story and you want to maximize that. Sometimes you have a little bit happening is that your 2-story just sort of shrinks and it becomes a really tight box. That's when I tell clients, just build the 1-story and then wait a few years. Maybe the bylaws will change. That way you have the full structure right now and then you just do an addition on top. These are some of the tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you guys because I love Tyler.
I just sent everybody the presentation. Like I just sent it to everybody. So if you guys want to open it up and follow along on your laptops or something in the meantime, then that's what we do.
Is this on? Yeah, it is on. Yeah.
I have a question regarding, well, 2 questions regarding the garden suites, but I'm not sure.
Sure.
Is it, so if you're selling the property, is it sold as one, including the garden suite, or is it like 2 separate companies?
Great question. So this goes back to the initial point about you cannot do a severance on the property. So that structure is part of the same title.
Got it.
So it's not really, it doesn't, we still haven't seen anyone actually register it because in the registry it's just the property, right? So it's all as one. You send it to you.
Just for like
Rental, more housing,
Got it.
because, and this is the key point which was, perfect. The entire utility has to get connected to the main house. So you can't run it separately and then have a separate line going to the main connection from the city. The challenge, and this is really the biggest challenge of garden suites and laneway suites, is finding the best connection point to the utility of the main house. And usually the challenge is the sewer and the water line. Everything else is sort of easy to navigate around.
Are you finding that buyers are interested in homes that have garden suites, or is there like more of a negative?
That's a great question. I think you guys would probably be better aware, but it depends on the buyer, right? The profile of the buyer. If there's someone that want privacy and they say, look, a lot of people say I don't like this concept because I want to have my own backyard. Perfect. This sort of option, I wouldn't say is necessarily for everybody, right? Because there's 40,000 homes that qualify for a laneway suite. There's 250,000 homes that qualify for a garden suite. There's going to be a percentage of people that will never find any value in this. But for the investor grade, for someone who says, hey, I have some money, I'm not a sophisticated investor like Tyler, and I don't know how to watch the market, I don't want to go buy a condo because, this and that. Where do I spend my money, right? Spend it in your backyard. Because then in the long run, you're earning equity on the property, and you have a rental income potential for that property. So it's like the most basic, simplified way for you to put your money into use.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think a 1-2 is that if you have a triplex, to get that garden suites big for the investor, to turn it into a 4-plex in Toronto.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think because I've seen investors go after that type of product, and then also like the laneway suite's been a big one.
Exactly. So to confirm again, the difference between a laneway suite and a garden suite, in certain areas in the city, so like let's say Hart Park area, Leslieville, the difference really between them is the access to the property. Laneway suites, it means there's a separate laneway that you're able to go in and you have your garage. Garden suite, it's basically any sort of house where it's fenced in on all 3 sides and you only have access from one entry point. Or sometimes if it's a corner lot, then you can tap into the side as well. So that's really the difference between the two. In terms of sizes, there is a difference as well, because in a laneway setting, because technically it's a garage space, like it's fully built for a garage space before, you can actually go all the way to the side property lines. In a garden suite, you need to have a minimum setback on each side. From the rear is minimum 5 feet, so that's like non-negotiable, unless you want to go to committee. From the sides, it's basically 10% of the frontage of the property for each side. So if you have a 40 frontage, you need to have minimum 4 feet on this side, 4 feet on the other side. And then you're able to build within that parameter. So there's really 4 setback parameters. Distance from the back of the house, distance from the side property lines in a garden suite setting, and then distance from the rear property line, again, with a garden suite. With a laneway suite, you still need a little bit of a rear setback. It's 1.5 meters. You know, and that's sort of light. Go ahead, sure.
Just a quick question. So let's say someone were to have a garden suite, when they go to sell, are they paying capital gains on the property?
That's a good question. I haven't had anyone actually go through and sell it. I'm sure you're subject to capital gains depending on how you've set yourself up.
You would.
Either way.
Subject to capital gains, but you have such a good
Yeah.
write-off because the cost of construction is X, the payback period is Y. It's
Yeah.
not a deal breaker, I would say. It's not something that would talk someone out of it.
Yeah.
But yes, 100% that would apply, yes.
And why would you sell this anyways? Don't sell it.
Yeah.
Don't sell.
What's the average cost for a two-story?
We'll get to that. It's the $1 million question right there. Hey, great question. I'll just run through some of the other key things, and then, so I think in terms of sizes and setbacks, that's really what you should know. That, you know, when you're walking the site, just understand there's a distance, there's a side setbacks, and the deeper the lot, the wider the lot, always better. We're finding on average some of the properties that we're doing in a garden suite setting, minimum 20 to 25 is a good size. In a laneway suite, we've gone as low as 15.5 even, right? But it's a little bit of a deeper lot because you're able to go all the way to the property line. So those are the key things, like key in terms of the build. But even before that, when you're going out and you're finding properties, the first thing you should even consider and look for is access to a fire hydrant. Now, there's 2 measurements, and these measurements are non-negotiable for a garden suite because there's no other way, right? So there's a distance between the hydrant and where the truck will basically position itself in the case of a fire. The maximum that can be is 45 meters. And then from there, another 45 meters from where the truck is sitting to where you're able to go through the property and access the garden suite. So that's number one. If you're over those distances, unfortunately for a garden suite, it's a deal breaker because there's no additional measures that you can put in. In a laneway setting, because you have 2 separate entrances, you're able to increase the second measurement all the way to 90 meters. So the 45 still stays. That first 45 from the hydrant stays. But the second one, you can extend it up to 90 meters if you use certain fire-resistant material in the build, or you also have a fire alarm system built into the house. Now, both of those are a little bit of a premium. My properties, I don't build anything that's not fire-resistant. So our standard is everything has to be fire-resistant anyways on all 4 sides. If you want to have a fire alarm system, usually we're seeing in the market anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000 of an increase. Now the second point is how is the second distance, basically how they're able to get in, that's another key factor. In a garden suite setting, you need to have a minimum of 1 meter of clear space for them to be able to access the rear garden suite. So that 1 meter could be from the side of the house, could be between 2 properties, could be the driveway. So it needs to be at least 1 meter. If your property has less than a meter, again, garden suite cannot qualify for it. In a laneway suite, it's different. It's 90 centimeters. So it's a little bit less. And this 90 centimeters has to be fully continuous. So if you have like a bay window that's sticking out within that sort of side, then they might ask you to get rid of that bay window, right? So these are all things to consider. Make sure it's nice and clear on the side. Let's go. One other key thing actually in a laneway suite, so not in a garden suite. Let's say you're in Roncesvalles and your property and the neighbor's property, you guys share a common walkway. and your property line is only 70 centimeters, but you have the neighbor's property which is quite extended. You can basically enter into what's called a limited distance agreement. So the better way to know about this is like you can enter into an easement that gets placed on that walkway, essentially between you and that neighbor. So you have to pay for the entire legal process. You have to get a lawyer. And all it's saying is that if ever emergency crews need to go on, they're able to walk on the property and everyone is okay with it. That's really, it's just an insurance component, and it feeds the legal system and all those guys, like always. So I did mention this, the entire utility system has to get connected to the main house. You can do a sub-metering system, so you can actually have a separate reading for the garden suite, so you know exactly how much the consumption is on that side. But this is probably the biggest challenge, aside from all of those other additional measurements, utility connections. So how do we go about this? We have to do a site visit. We have to come in and figure out through the basement or through the side of the house what would be the best and more sufficient way for us to connect the utility system. And also, a lot of people are going full electric on these. This has been a big push, I think, from the city anyways, but most of the homes that we're doing now, they don't even want to pull gas. They just want an electric system for the HVAC, for the entire system. So this is sort of like a cheat sheet, maybe something you can pull out when you're going out and you're doing these evaluations for the property. Hey, does it meet all of these requirements? And then from there you can evaluate the property. As always, you know, for us, we're here to help you out as well. All we need is the property address, and if they have a survey, then even better. Just email it to us and say, hey, how much does this qualify for? And then we can come up with an entire package for them so that you can present to your client and say, hey, by the way, your property can qualify for this much. Whether they're selling it or they're looking to buy, I think it would be good information for them to have, especially because you guys are so knowledge and technical. And for parking, so a lot of people ask questions about parking, like do we need to have a parking? The city they only need 2 parking spots for bikes, that's it. There's no minimum requirement for cars. We always recommend people to, if they have the land, to at least maybe do a little bit of a setback so that they can fit a car in the laneway side, as long as it's within their own property line. And there's some creative ways that we can go about doing that. We can do a cantilever on the second floor so that the first floor sits back a little bit more, and then come up with different designs. So we're full design build. We'll be able to go through that entire process for them, work with their budget, if it's realistic. Even if it's not realistic, then we can at least let them know what's happening or what they can get for that. I'll walk through some of the case studies because I think there was some question about, oh no, that was the cost. But in terms of performance, how these properties are performing in terms of in the rental market. So this one on the left, we built this, it's almost 900 square feet. We were able to get 2 full bedrooms plus an office space and 2 full baths on the second floor. Main floor was full living space in Ronci. They ended up renting it for $4,100 a month right away, right? And then the next one over, so this one was at Rogers and Dufferin, Little Portugal, a little bit bigger. You know, they did a nice job on the inside, but for the area, and this was a 4-bedroom, a full 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. This one rented for $38. I think it's gone up a little bit since then because they've changed. Thank you. So are you. Another one in Ronci again. This one, 1,000 square feet. He was a cop and very nice guy. I was so happy when he rented it right away. $4,250. And sometimes what they do is they even include the utility, right? So it's just all in, $4,250. And then the other one was in Leslieville. This one was the one that was 15 and a half wide. So literally the size of the garage right beside it. They ended up getting $3,800 a month.
same setback to the side?
Yeah, this one you go all the way to the property line, and it was full 32 feet. 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bath. So 1 upstairs and then a powder on the main floor. You can see some of these pictures on our website, on our social media, just in terms of the quality and the grade that we're finding people want. We have a very clear like investment grade setup for all the finishes, for all the material. So if someone is really truly like looking for something investor grade, we can simplify the process, pick out the materials for them. They can come to our showroom. We have our own manufacturing in-house, so we do our own millwork. We do all of our windows, the vinyl windows in-house. So we can speed up a little bit of the process.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
This is amazing for you guys, man. You guys should be starting your brain should be moving as quick as mine's moving. All the opportunity here. And he said a comp. It was a comp that built that. Average people, average income, normal people that are able to do things like this, like pulling equity or taking from savings or whatever they're doing for supplementary income. Like you could talk about multi-generations living on the same property. You could talk about investors, of course. Like there's so much potential for this. You guys, your brain should be going absolutely nuts right now. Creating checklists for clients, for listings, to say, is there the potential for a garden suite? Prep all the work and sell it before this is done. The buyer goes and executes this plan. Investors that already own the property, they want to add some GFA, right? Whatever it is, there's so much potential here. So I hope you guys are connecting the dots like I am. Sorry.
One thing I'm getting, and the sort of responses that I've seen, sort of, is a lot of people say, "Oh, I can go buy another property with that money that you're going to invest." To answer your question about the typical cost, right? That we're starting in the $350 per square feet for the build, and on average, they end up being a little bit closer to the 400, especially if they want to add some bells and whistles, they want to do certain nice things. But anywhere from 350 to 400 is our base like standard model. It can go up from there, but it'd be very hard to squeeze and try to get it lower than that. So a typical 1,000 square feet can be around the 400,000 plus like a little bit for the for getting the permits and the architectural and the permit process. So some people, they come and say that we have a mutual friend, Pran. I keep trying to tell him, hey, he has like 20 properties. I'm like, put one of these in there, like I'll build it for you. But for him, because he's a savvy investor, he understands. He's like, look, I can go and use my credit, I can go use my profile and keep buying properties. Perfect. You're that type of investor, and if you're able to do that, so that down the line you have the option of turning these over and adding to it and creating GFA. Not everybody is like that. Not everybody has the capacity to think that way or wants to think that way. So you got to figure out who your target audience is.
If you don't mind, just on that note with the financing options, where do you see most people finding the money? Are they refinancing their existing equity and then refinancing their overall home and moving that into their primary mortgage?
That's the most common approach. Either they're getting a home equity line of credit or they're getting loans. Some are doing private financing, but again, it's a little bit on the higher side. Typically, home equity is.
To your question, is Alex and Laura's the capital gain there?
Yeah.
Obviously, this adds value to property, right? Based on
For sure.
For the right profile, obviously.
Yeah.
If you're adding $250,000 worth of value, the home's worth $1.5. You complete this, now it's worth $1,850. You refinance on your home, it's looped into your mortgage. So to that point, I think the money is still cheap. It's cheaper. Like it's 13% return if you're getting $3,800 a month on a 1,000 square foot place that costs $350,000 build. 13% return. That's better than these institutional guys on their purposeful rentals that they're building. Right? So it's quite sensational. An 8-year payback period, just less than 8-year payback period. There's something to be said about it.
Even if you're looking at these numbers, right? Let's get a little bit fancy. In terms of finding a valuation once it's finished, we can basically run and figure out what that valuation is, because this has become an income generating property, right? So if you use some financing mechanisms and see what the cap rate for the city of Toronto is right now, then you can use the NOI that you're getting from this property, and then in itself can give you a valuation, right? So let's say if you're making $50,000 NOI, and then you use a cap rate, I don't know what the cap rates are now, but even if it's 4%, right? So that gives you a valuation. And every time we've looked at that valuation, you're always getting at least 30, 40%, you're up 30, 40% on the value of the property in comparison to the total investment that you've allocated for it to be stabilized. So let's say if you spent $300,000, right now the property is worth $400,000, right? And that's something that in this market today, financiers will actually look at it. Banks will look at it. They understand it. 5 years ago, it was tough. There was really very few people that were doing this, but now it's becoming even more and more of an actual product that the banks are looking into. I know CIBC, RBC, they're looking at creating a whole division for this. Those banks, they move very slow. It's all talk. But there's a lot of A banks and B banks that are offering this. I know Equitable has a program for ADU, basically, as long as you're able to bring in your entire property and then refinance it with them, then they'll give you some money for you to be able to build an ADU. There are some incentives that the government has promised, but anytime the government, especially the liberal government, promises something, they don't really come through, right? We're still waiting on this $80,000 ADU grant that they were going to offer back in January. Nobody knows where that money is, but it's something that we're talking a lot with our team and our finance guys. But there's still, again, there's ways for you to be able to skin the cat and make this fit, right? If you have a timeline, if you're flexible, then there are ways for you to be able to get this built. So that's it for me. Feel free if you have any questions, if there's anything that maybe I should touch on. Go
I
ahead.
have a few questions. So, it's,
Great.
You offer free code, right?
Yes, sure.
Perfect. And
We'll charge you though. No, I'm kidding. It's
how
all.
long does it take to, between the first day I hire you
Yeah.
until I receive the key? How usually?
Well, great question. Okay, so anywhere. I always say, give yourself from day one. Like you say, okay, I have a property, I want to do it. I always like to add a little bit of buffer because 1, there's a city. 2, when do you start? 3, how are things flowing, right? So 12 to 18 months is the timeline that I always say. Doesn't mean it's always going to be 18 months. That 1 to 6 month planning period with getting the permit could shrink to 2 months. And then we're able to start in spring, and in 6 months, we can hand over the key, depending on logistics. But anywhere from 6 months to a year is a typical construction for these. And that sort of delta is because of a lot of different factors. When do you start? How easy is it to get material to the site? Is it only one access point? Or can I actually go in and take the material in with a machine? Or I have to hand bomb everything, right?
Warranty. Do you guys offer warranty?
Of course, yeah. So everything is built according to Ontario Building Code. So that's where the permit comes in. So we have a 1 year, 2 year, and a 7 year warranty system. So 1 year for everything inside the house in terms of workmanship, making sure everything is functional. 2 years is the utility, so like plumbing, if it doesn't go flowing, and then 7 years is structural.
Okay, do you guys have a referral commission?
So I was gonna leave that for Yashar to mention. He'll fill you in, and I think it'd be a good chance to also introduce our prefab line as well. So I'll hand it over to Yashar to answer that question. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you. I'm here, so if you have any questions, again, reach out.
Okay. Testing, is this thing on? Hi guys, Yashar Bashari here. I'm a sales manager at Atena. So any kind of questions regarding commissions, how pay structures would be working with people such as yourselves, so you guys have access to your own clientele, and essentially it's almost like in a way, you guys are selling the product without actually selling the product. So you're connecting your clientele with us, who you think would qualify for this based on what Ali just ran through. So now you have the numbers, you have the ideas, the setback requirements, all that, and how much cost would be. In terms of financing, again, we can go through that. There's various options, and there's a lot of ways to get around that. Now, the most important part is this gives you guys an opportunity to chat with your clients again and find out exactly what you could provide them that's not something you guys have already talked about. So how many times have you guys sent an email, or how many times have you guys sat around and been like, should I send the same email? Should I send the same follow-up? Hey, thinking of selling, or something like that? It's especially in this market, or this market correction, that's something that's happening a little too often, and it leaves a bad taste in the client's mouth, right? So, it's also boring, right? So you can't really keep going back to the same person, say the same thing over and over. Now, this gives you guys an opportunity and with a whole new approach. So instead of, somebody who maybe they bought around COVID, which was a bit high, and they can't really sell without taking a bit of a loss, this might be an opportunity to kind of, let's say, fill that gap with the rental income that they could generate monthly. If there is an opportunity for them with the space they have within the city of Toronto, there's also Mississauga, we could talk about it. So I know if you have clients all over the GTA, each one has a municipal setback requirements and bylaws. So we'll get into that later. The main thing is that, do they have the space? Are they willing to do it? Are they going to stay there for a while? That's very important, right? A lot of people want to make some money, but if they're not going to stay there for 5-10 years, then this might not be the right program for them. Now, in terms of commission and how that works, we would provide you, so I'll provide direct to you marketing materials that you can use with your clients. And then I'll also provide you marketing materials from us to you as the agent. So like a cheat sheet, kind of referral book, reference book that you guys can go to and, sharpen the knives and stuff and make sure you guys are on point with, the bylaw requirements and stuff like that. So when they ask you questions, you guys have the answers in the right time. Another thing I want to touch on is how we get from that initial part where you guys kind of have identified your clients, have reached out, and you think that this person might actually benefit, they're willing to take the next steps into actually meeting with us. That's where we would come in. So a lot of times you guys are going to be directly working with the client just like you do with a regular buy or sell or rent or lease, any kind of transaction. You guys will be with them, you will be representing them to us. And then once we get to the point where we realize that they are actually willing to move forward, then we would provide the contract and the agreement for the client. The client would sign. We would also provide you with the commission at that point. Now, the big question, of course, how much is commission? It's very similar to what you guys would be getting buying and selling currently. So it's very similar to, the typical real estate agent commission. There you go, 2.5%. Now, it's important to also note that we have opportunities outside of what we've discussed here, so outside of the garden and laneway thing. These also qualify as ADUs, so additional dwelling units, but they're actually called prefabs, so prefabricated. We don't come there and set up our trades there and bring our materials there. Instead, what we do is we actually build offsite at our facility. We then load it with a crane onto a truck, we bring it by, we have the truck parked, the crane is loading the unit, and then it drops it off onto the concrete pad or whatever specified area we're using for that actual structural foundation. Then we just tie it in. So we would have everything roughed in and we just plug and play basically. So that's another option. A lot of people don't want to have somebody in their backyard for that extended period of time. Or perhaps they just don't have the time to wait around 6 months, right? So we might have something off-site that's ready for them that actually ticks all the boxes. And we could bring that over as long as, they qualify for the space, the financing is there, and the transportation, and we could actually drop it there properly. That saves a lot of time. So that shaves a lot off of the timeline of that 6 to, maybe 18 months or 12 to 18 months. That could be a little bit faster. So if we have pre-approved permits for these, they're pre-approved based on their actual land and their lot size and dimensions, then that's a very quick way to actually get them the rental income they're looking for, right? So that's one of the challenges we found is a lot of people are very willing to go down this route, but they're a little bit hesitant on, I don't know if I could stick around for 12 to 18 months. They're worried about keeping themselves afloat. They're worried about this and that. They need that income faster, that rental income. So this kind of helps out with that. Now, this doesn't just work in the city. This actually works all over Southern Ontario. So if you have clients that are up in Barrie, Aurelia, even out in cottage country, a lot of people are using these as secondary, like guest suites and stuff in their cottages. So this opens a door for a lot. Some people are using these for their home offices. So even if it's like 120 square feet, that's their home office. They separate it from the main house, and then every day they're going there. They have their separated designated zone. Some people are using them. There's a lot of creators and stuff, YouTube people and streamers use them as well. It's a very cheap space that you don't have to pay monthly. It's your own, you own it, and it's on your property, right? So there's multiple applications to this. Now, I'll open the floor for some questions. If there's, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, how's the build quality versus the prefab?
So the build quality, we're building steel frames on these. So they're very, very durable, very similar finishes actually in them as well. And the quality is the same except for we're using a steel frame.
Yeah, and then the base, what do you guys usually?
So typically it would be slab on grade, or some people could opt for sonotubes if they wish. And that way, like, we'll prepare the actual utilities and rough-ins and stuff, and that way when we bring it with the crane, we drop it on, it's literally dropped right where it needs to be plugged in. Yeah.
Is there a premium for the prefab ones?
That's a great question. The premium that you'll face with prefabs is actually nothing to do with the build itself. It's more with the transportation and the actual, so bringing the crane, bringing the truck and getting it there. There's a cost associated with that, but then you're making that money back right away, right?
Yeah.
So if you have to save, if you're saving like, let's say 12 months of construction, you just made all that money in terms of rent. So the premium is, it sorts itself out in that sense.
How many people do prefab as opposed to the other route? Because why not everyone? Why wouldn't you just always do that?
Well, prefabs, you can't really have a two-story, right?
Fair enough.
Some people want a basement. There's not custom options really. It's kind of, we could,
So these are like already made in the factory, and they would just pick it if it fits. And
Correct,
the
yeah.
criteria.
correct.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so we have different options, different sizes. They're ready. They're just north of the city. And
You say there's like the max prefab option you have.
max prefab option we'd have.
Yeah, like the biggest unit.
We're building one that's pretty big right now. We could do 2 bedrooms and a prefab easily.
Okay, so you're still
Yeah.
net.
A standard, I would say, is like about 225, 250 square feet. Anywhere from 160 to like 250. So you could do like a 1-bedroom or a bachelor prefab. Studio prefab, we have Atrium right now, so that's our studio prefab, which has, a living space, a kitchenette, and then it also has like a 4-piece bathroom. So it has, your standing shower, doorless, you have your toilet, your vanity, and then it also has a stacking washer dryer in there. So it's pretty spacious in there. And a lot of people would take something like that and then prepare the area for it, so the slab on grade with the surrounding deck area. And then you could enclose that later if you wish. And then you have kind of your indoor setting, and then you have your outdoor setting. So you could have your barbecue, you could have, your area to lounge outside and hang out, and then later you come inside. So this is, it's opening the doors for a lot of variability and a lot of fun.
Yeah. Even, have you guys seen a lot with like short-term rentals in cottage country?
Yeah, so a lot of people are looking for that in cottage country, exactly. And not just for that, but maybe even for themselves, a guest suite, or they themselves will live in the prefab and then rent out the main cottage, right? Yeah.
We had a client this weekend come to an open house in Aurora, and their in-laws are moving in.
Right.
But they want them they're like, we want our own kitchen.
Yeah.
So basically, this could just be a reason to reach out to them.
Yeah.
And say, hey, if you can't find what you're looking for, this is always an option. You buy a home that has the requirements, and you just.
Well, that's what a lot of people are doing right now, right? So instead of buying and selling the home so that they could buy their children something, they're actually building something for the parents.
A lot of end users, yeah.
And then, yeah, exactly, because then they have the main homeowner, which is the kids. They're having kids. So then grandma and grandpa are right there.
Yeah.
No daycare. They don't have to pay for their own place. Now everybody's kind of, as they would in Europe. Let's say in Italy, everybody stays together and the family sticks together. And this actually is very helpful for a lot of different, we're in Toronto, so the multiculturalism is huge. And most cultures, they do that.
In Toronto, I know it's like about based on the Toronto
Yep.
way that it's being done. For GTA, I know laneways obviously not really a thing, but let's say Aurora, Vaughan, Garden Suites, what's the rules and regulations?
So they're all specific to each location. So each location has their own setback requirements. For example, Brampton, you can't build over 375 square feet.
But
So
it's possible.
It's possible. Oh yeah, there's a lot of possibility in Aurora. Yeah, Aurora's got a great possibility because there's a lot of space. And then Stouffville, Newmarket, we're seeing some. Yeah, Richmond Hill's a bit kind of on the fence still. Yeah, but it is possible. It's just it's not as spacious, and yeah, for now we'll see. Yeah.
The cost, your colleague said that it's about 400 per square foot.
Yes.
But regarding the modular,
Yeah.
is it cheaper, I guess?
No, so the prices are very similar. The only difference in price would be the fact that there's a premium on there because we're saving time for the client. But in that time being saved, we do have to truck the actual unit down and then crane it onto the property. So there is that cost associated with that. So it's around the same thing, really.
You just get it quicker.
You get it quicker, yeah, because then you're making your money quicker.
You might as well
Time
just do
versus
that.
money.
Yeah.
Nice.
In fact, you might actually make more money this way and save more money. Because if you're charging a decent rent, which I mean, you've seen the prices on some of these. So even for a 2-bedroom, if you're going like $3,000 even, which is kind of low, you could still make that money back and more. So depends on the client.
Like when you train it for a garden suite, similar like when they do the pool of a house, you train it. Right?
That's right, yeah, correct.
That's scary.
We have a lot of actually on our Instagram, you'll see, and I'll leave my cards here, you'll find my social media as well, but there's a good video of what that process looks like. So you'll see our facility, you'll see it get loaded on a truck, you'll see the crane, put it there, and then and we've taken it to Toronto, we brought it back, we were there for a show. And yeah, it's very exciting. It's just, it is a little bit interesting when you see a home being put on a truck and then placed somewhere, and you're like, wow, I was just in this thing somewhere else. So it's kind of cool like that.
We should talk. I have a 50-foot barge, steel, 20 by 50.
Okay.
We did that down at our marina,
Where's the marina?
Bluffers Park Marina.
Bluffers, okay, yeah.
We have float homes down there, and so I was
Nice.
actually starting to do barge yachts, I was calling it, but I got
Mm-hmm.
shut down by our own management down there. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a big piece of steel sitting there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, the board.
We could certainly talk for steel, and we could talk about the barge.
Pretty cool though, because you can just take a modular home and put it on.
That's
top of
right,
the
yeah.
steel.
Yeah. We've got, I'm sure we have some mutual friends. I have
Yeah?
some friends that are in Port Credit Marina and as well as
My old
Bluffers.
man developed that marina, so.
Okay, well,
we know
perfect.
everyone down there, yeah.
We'll definitely
We brought
chat.
those float homes over.
Okay.
right From the island.
Wow.
So, yeah, we'll talk, because this is.
Definitely,
I'm looking
yeah.
For someone for this.
Yeah, that opens a whole new market, which
Maybe
obviously,
we'll throw a modular on and sell
yeah,
it, and
that's
it's
what I'm
like
thinking,
something
yeah.
new, right?
Yeah, that's another option, yeah,
Awesome. Well, I'll take your card.
absolutely. All right, guys, any other questions before I get into how, yeah,
So, let's say I bring you a client.
Big one.
You're
Yeah.
looking to make an offer, but we need to make sure that this specific property will allow us to do this kind of investment.
yeah,
How long does it take for you guys to check out if it's a possibility, a real possibility or not?
well, I don't think it's very realistic to bring an offer on something without consulting us first. There's obviously steps before that. So the steps before,
How long do you need to give us an answer?
yeah, you just hit me up and say, hey, look, I have a client, they have the funding required for this much funding, and you know, they're looking for this in this amount of time, this is the timeline they have, and then you tell me the property address, and I could get that back to you within a week, easily. Yeah, less than that even, if I'm not super busy, yeah. A week would be pushing it, so, yeah.
Sorry, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but what's the average time from breaking ground to completion in a, like one that you, not basement necessarily, but 2 floors? Average
12
time?
to 18 months.
12 to 18,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Okay, sorry.
Even the basement is where you'll like find a bit more of an issue, because that takes its own amount of time.
Yeah.
But the important thing is actually going back to the question this gentleman just asked, is really just finding out whether this works for everybody.
Yeah.
So let's say you hit me up and you say, hey, this is the client, these are the things that it helps me to have a bit of the homework out of the way beforehand, and that's where we all work together, right? So you have the client, you have the information, you present that information to me, and then I go and I do my homework. And it really would, I could get back to you within a day or two, like a week would be if I'm like very busy. So it's not too. Sometimes though, outside, I will say this, outside of the GTA, some addresses specifically I do have to go to the municipality for. So that's where I say a week, right? So like sometimes it's case by case outside of the GTA basically, or outside of the Toronto area.
You guys will handle all
We're a one-stop shop. We even do the windows. So,
That's really cool.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much. That's
absolutely. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I'll get you my card as well, Dan. Nice to meet you, Yashar. Yeah, I'll get you my card and all.
Like this is that gives you that. This is that stuff that gives you that 1% to compete, to win, to define a profile, to have the answer. So having guys like this and a company like this in your corner, which literally I would say invented this stuff and have a replicable plan to just copy paste at a very economic scale. I mean it's incredible, and they're only going to make you look better, cooler, and make more money with your clients. Give your clients an opportunity to make more money. So thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.